Welcome to Made the Grade, David Bowie special.
Ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade, and the papers want to know whose shirts you wear.
Well, I've set myself an impossible task, and it's likely something that will change throughout my life, but I know how much the internet loves lists, so maybe one day I'll do a Bowie top 100. But for now, I'm going to do my top 5 best of Bowie. Number 5, Starman.
Didn't know what time it was and the lights were low. I leaned back on my radio.
At least one song from the album The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars needed to be included on this list. I picked Starman because it was a single and because it's a pretty good representation of the whole album concept. The tale of alien rock god Ziggy Stardust. In concept, Ziggy Stardust, with his sexually promiscuous, drug-abusing glam rock glory, came to Earth to spread a message of peace and love to the youth from the great starman waiting in the sky. Performing as such, David Bowie, embodying this character, made a move to dismantle any boundaries or barriers of socially unacceptable sexuality. In a famous Top of the Pops performance of Starman, the androgynous Ziggy Stardust sings with his fellow spider, Mick Ronson, in an apparently shocking gesture. I've been told it was a shocking gesture at the time, putting his arm around Mick. To think that that was considered shocking at the time, but it was. A bold statement at the time, addressing the question, why would this be considered unacceptable in what was supposed to be a modern society? I think it firmed up a pretty obvious generation gap.
There's a starman waiting in the sky. He told us not to blow it, 'cause he knows it's all worthwhile. It's only let the children use it, let the children use it, let all the children boogie.
Continuing with the space theme, number 4, Space Oddity.
Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom.
Belongs in any list of best music of all time. A 22-year-old Bowie topped the charts with this majestic outer space anthem. 22, he was 22 years old. 21. Released in 1969 and coincided with the moon landings and worldwide space fever. Allegedly written while stoned and inspired from watching 2001, the Kubrick film. The lyrics depict the honourable Major Tom establishing connection with ground control, only to lose communication and drift off into the ether, never to return. Sort of ties in with Bowie's recurring theme of characters facing their untimely fate. Predominantly a folk rock song, a pretty interesting texture. You've got the stylophone, which adds this metallic electric timbre to the mix, sort of like the whirring of a spaceship control panel. Then you have Mick Wing's legendary guitar tone, adding plenty to the sonic palette. So you've got the reverberated takeoff noise, as well as the accidental string detune at the end of the solo. The song also establishes Bowie's interest in orchestration, adding like a symphony to his songs in the arrangements. It was quite a rarity in rock music at the time, and possibly a decision made as a result of the inspiration from 2001. Some say the lyrics could be seen as a metaphor for getting high and overdosing. A theory that is confirmed by number 3 on our list, Ashes to Ashes.
Do you remember Regatha's Beat? It's such a lovely song. I've heard a rumor from ground control. Oh no, don't say it's true.
Ashes to Ashes, the 1980 number 1 hit from Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. The song was Bowie's introspective, retrospective art pop epitaph for the 1970s. pushing boundaries with incredibly modern production techniques and a music video that seems to have drawn as much attention as the song itself. Featuring the famous Piero character, a funeral procession backed by a bulldozer, padded sails, soloized film. It's got it all. Both melancholy and reflective, the song references Bowie's character Major Tom and his fall from grace, who has re-established a connection with ground control, not as a space hero, but as an addict. It's just an example of Bowie's endless genius. With an interval of a decade long, Bowie can return to the narrative of his Major Tom character, draw autobiographical comparisons in the form of a brilliant pop song. A total understanding of his own art and its place within modern culture and postmodern culture. It still defies belief, 30 years later. There's a really good quote from Bowie himself about the fate, the decompression of the Major Tom storyline.
This great technology was capable of putting him up there. When he did get up there, he wasn't quite sure why he'd been put there, and we left him there, but now we come to him 10 years later and we find that the whole thing has soured because there was no reason for putting him up there. A technological ego which got him up there for no specific reason.
2 on the list, Life on Mars.
It's a god-awful small affair to the girl with the mousy hair, but her mummy is yelling no, and her daddy has told her to go.
First released on Bowie's 4th studio album, Hunky Dory, at which point Bowie had perfected the glam rock formula. Arrangements that resembled musical theatre and cabaret, with all the cinematic elegance of golden Hollywood, combined with this grooving sci-fi art pop from the retro future. Bowie is said to have written Life on Mars with Frank Sinatra's My Way in mind, not out of appreciation, but in retaliation.
And one of the things they gave me was this French song, and they said, do an English lyric to this. So I wrote this god-awful lyric. Even a Fool Learns to Love, it was called. It's dreadful. God, it's so awful. Really embarrassingly bad. The next time I heard it, it was My Way by Frank Sinatra. What happened to my lyric? Oh, I'm sorry, but it wasn't very good, so we got Paul Anka to do it. So I was really pissed off. I thought, oh, it should have been my song, you know? So I thought, okay, I'll write my own version. So it's My Way on Mars.
Take that, Sinatra. Life on Mars, of course, features the famous, glorious piano accompaniment by Rick Wakeman, who later did something in another band, and it perfectly complements the theatrical, melancholy performance from Bowie. It's a ballad which appears to depict disillusion with 20th century Britannia. Bowie once stated that the lyrics represent a young girl's reaction to the media, finding only emptiness and confusion, longing for a better life that she'll never gain access to. You've got the full symphonic arrangements behind Mick Ronson's lyrical guitar lines, building towards a climactic ending. Then you hear the distant piano line just reiterated right at the end. Apparently it was a recording error, but it kind of resembles the song drifting away into space. The perfect atmosphere as the curtain falls.
Wonder if you'll ever know who's in the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars?
Number 1 on the list, and the only one that's not about space. You probably guessed it from the start of the video, to be honest. Heroes by David Bowie. The single Heroes features on the album of the same name, the second instalment of the highly influential and deeply creative Berlin trilogy. Recorded at Hands by the Wall Studios, Bowie recalls 2 lovers in the grips of a divided regime in the radicalized militant capital. It's a triumphant, understated, heroic rock and roll ballad, and the song ultimately proved to be Bowie's masterpiece. To ask why Heroes is the very best is to ask how the greatest song that could ever be written came to own such a title. Is it that, as listeners, we all find something pertinent, something truthful, relatable, reflected in our own lives? The characters that Bowie describes share a difficult relationship, characterized by drunken fights and a longing for freedom, for escape, with a tender acceptance that it is true love between them and there's nothing they can do about it. The two lovers were famously inspired by the record's producer Tony Visconti kissing Antonio Mas, the backing singer, by the wall, inspiring those eternal lyrics. Romance in the face of certain peril. Maybe another reason why the song is the best is through a combination of innovative, unparalleled production techniques against a recognisable chordal structure, resulting in this timeless composition that seems to have always existed. And yet, as you hear it for the first time, it's as if you already know it. The song sounds both gracious and grand from the outset. Solid textural arrangement from Brian Eno, and what started off as an instrumental initially with industrial synthesizers swooping in, Robert Fripp's feeding back guitar slicing through the room. Heroes went on to eventually feature Bowie's incredible vocal performance, captured by a gated microphone technique. It's actually quite an interesting little fact, so I will elaborate. You see, as the song progresses, you'll notice the vocals growing more and more distant. This was achieved with an array of 3 microphones spaced out across the room. Bowie would sing into the first microphone, the closest one, and as that verse finishes, the next microphone would begin recording, which was a few meters away. And by the final verse, we hear Bowie actually shouting to be heard by the most distant microphone, reverberating around the hall. His performance grows with dramatic intensity as a result. It actually acts as this beautiful technical metaphor for the lovers and their tragic fate. That concludes the top 5. I think the whole world is still in mourning, but luckily his music's still here. You've been watching Made the Grade, David Bowie special. My name's Sydney.